transformation. How you guys feel about it? Yay! I woke up and watched Foodie this morning to kind of get in the mindset, to get motivated for this. You guys seen Foodie? Kind of oh my gosh, yeah, it's really, really, really good. If you haven't watched it, I'll try to put a link for it maybe on the blog, because it's definitely, I think it's like 30, 40 minutes. Definitely worth watching and goes along with what we're going to be talking about today. But some of the basics that I want to go over, and Tyrell, you can chime in too, because if you remember, we're going to talk about kind of just generally what's going on with this in general. We're going to be doing food blogging throughout, so you'll be able to send those food blogs to me so that I can go through them, check them, answer any of your questions, kind of give you some helpful hints or whatever. But in order for me to give you those helpful hints and for you to know what you need to be doing, we need to set some goals. You need to send those goals to me so I know what's going on. So a little bit about goals. Remember with goals, we talk about they want to be smart, right? I always forget what that stands for too, so probably, but specific, measurable. Do you guys remember what the A is? I think it's accountable. What is it?
Attainable.
Attainable. Attainable. I always thought the R was realistic. All of these are good things with goals. And T, time sensitive. So basically what I'm trying to say is with these goals that you send me, okay, make sure that you're very specific about them, what you want to do, when you want to do it, break it down. Maybe there's some sub-goals to that main goal. Time sensitive, maybe it's just for this week, it's just a smaller goal. You know, maybe there's a longer goal for the next month. Our goal for you guys with this transformation, Tyrell wrote this in the letter that we emailed out, is for this next month we're really focusing on nutrition, not only helping you stay accountable to whatever that goal is, but we want to give you the knowledge and the know-how to be able to continue to have good nutrition, whatever your nutrition goals are, for the rest of the year and onward. So it's really not about just this month, but we're trying to, I guess, instill the habits that you would need for this month for them to continue. So that's really kind of the goal of the transformation. Do you guys have any questions about goals? So bottom line, get those down, write those down, send them to me, as well as there's 2 ways that you can be logging your food. Preferably, the best way, because you guys will get the most out of it, is to use MyFitnessPal. It's a free app. You can do it on your phone, you can put it on your computer, whatever is easier for you. But this is going to allow you, it actually gets a lot quicker once you have it set up. To add in your food, it's going to tell you your calories, your proteins, your carbs, your fats. It allows me to go in and manually kind of custom set some stuff and change some things up if we need to. And all of that is free. So that's going to be the best way. If for whatever reason that will not work, you can just write it like a Word document and send that to me as well. Works well. You're probably just not going to get as much feedback as you would if you're using MyFitnessPal. If you do use MyFitnessPal, make sure that you email me every week. We're going to set goals. So every week with your goals, make sure that you're also emailing me your login info, just so I don't forget or have to try to go back in your emails and look for them, because I'm going to be getting a lot of emails. Does that sound good, guys? Anything that I forgot, Tyrell, as far as that goes? Okay.
If we have any questions, a good place to put them is on comments on the board, on the website.
Right.
So that Rochelle isn't receiving 40 emails each day and people are going to have the same questions, so go ahead and put those up on the comments.
It usually happens. I'll get the same question over and over again. And also it gives us good feedback as to maybe what we need to cover in some of our lectures, or maybe some different articles or videos, things like that we can find to help you guys. We want you to get the most out of this experience. So I'm super excited about it. Good. Any questions about that then? Woohoo! Still excited? Awesome. So what I wanted to talk about today, because we're kind of talking about goals every year, I guess it's New Year, it's kind of that time of year, that's the reason why we do this time of year, is we are thinking about goals. And for me, a lot of times it is fitness goals, and every year I go back to the quality of food that I'm eating. And so that's why I really wanted to start off with quality right out of the gate. Typically when we talk about food, or if I'm talking to people about nutrition, there's 3 things about nutrition that we need to focus on. A lot of times we focus about the quantity, and sometimes forget about the quality as well as the timing. And I think the quality really is probably the most important component of that. So super important. That's why we wanted to talk about it, hit on it today. So quality, throwing that word around. Let's get some feedback. I want to kind of play with you guys a little bit. So what is quality food to you guys? What do I mean when I say quality food? What comes to mind?
Whole foods.
Awesome. So whole foods. You're talking about like foods from nature when you say whole foods?
Oh, yeah, sure.
No. I think that was a Sunday school answer. He doesn't even know. All right, what else comes to mind, guys?
Something that fills you up.
Okay, so something that, if it fills you up, then is it fair to say that it's nutritious, it's got fiber and all those other things, so there's nutrition with it, right? So nutrition, it has some nutrition. Okay? Fresh. Yeah. Right, so it hasn't been living on your shelf for 2 years.
Or process.
Right, yeah. Fresh, so we'll put not processed.
Raw.
Foods. Yeah, raw foods. Why are fresh foods more healthy though? I should ask.
They have more vitamins and
Right.
nutrients.
Goes back to that, right? The nutrition that's in them. The older that a food is, the more nutrition that it loses. Yeah. Anything else you guys can think of that you want to put on here?
Short shelf life.
Yeah, so kind of that same thing, that fresh, short shelf life, doesn't have all the preservatives or whatever. So let's kind of talk about that. So, I was thinking about, I actually went to the grocery store last night. I go to the grocery store and I'm always checking food labels and always trying to observe like, okay, what healthy brands do they have? What's here, what's there? I can't just go to the grocery store and just shop without like actively shopping. In case somebody asks me where to get this, here's the healthiest place. It's that hazard of the job. But when you go to the grocery store, you guys have probably noticed that the healthier foods are going to be on the perimeter of the grocery store. Correct? You go in, you've got your produce section, you walk around and you've got, your dairy, your meats, all throughout. In the middle section is typically where all those processed foods are. And it's typically these processed foods that we're seeing that are going to come in a box or a bag or something that have labels on them, correct? So what I want to go over with you guys is labels and how to read the food labels a little bit better, because those can be super, super tricky. So I was thinking the first thing, as I'm looking at food, as I'm reading food labels and you're trying to understand the food label, I once heard this saying, it's a Michael Pollan saying actually, it's really simple, but if a 5th grader can't pronounce it, then you probably shouldn't eat it, right? So I was looking through my cupboard and I challenge you guys to do the same thing when you go home. I was trying to find unhealthy food, so this is what I came up with. And I actually read food labels, so I know I found, this was from backpacking that never got eaten. And it has a huge little list of ingredients, probably about 50. Enriched pasta, thiamine, mononitrate, riboflavin. Some of these I understand, whey. Cornstarch solids, palm oil, partially hydrogenated soybean oil, cornstarch, broccoli, onion, salt, maltodextrin, sodium caseinate, non-fat, black pepper, lactic acid, citric acid, dipotassium phosphate. So the list goes on. A bunch of kind of really long, crazy words, and there's a lot of ingredients to it, right? So that kind of fits under if you're looking at this and if you can't envision that ingredient in nature, what that actually looks like, probably not the best food for you, right? Ooh, put that aside. I actually remember I was having a popcorn craving one night, so I went to Walmart and I'm on the shelf looking for probably 10 minutes. Jared was getting super annoyed with me, seriously, just pick out a box of popcorn if you're gonna eat it. So I got the healthiest popcorn I could find, and I was looking at this popcorn ingredients, and this popcorn still contains egg, milk, soy, natural flavors, coloring. I'm thinking it's freaking popcorn, it's corn, and they heat it up. Why is there eggs and milk and soy in my healthiest as I could find popcorn that's made of non-GMO meats, right? So I challenge you guys, go home, look in your refrigerator, check out the ingredients, maybe pull out something that's like a sugary sweet thing. Look at salad dressings and condiments, lots of stuff in there. Sugar is a big one, right? Really, really easy for us to kind of miss the sugar that's in the labeling and in the ingredients. Why? Because there's 50 different names for sugar that we have no idea. Let's spitball some of these. What do you guys think? You guys are smart. What are some of the names we have for sugar? Some of the ways that sugar is disguised in our foods?
Sucrose.
Sucrose. Boom.
Sucralose.
Yeah. Artificial sweetener, right? Yeah. Sucralose. What else you guys have?
High fructose corn syrup.
High fructose corn syrup. Same thing. High fructose corn syrup and corn syrup, both. What else?
Is aspartame?
Aspartame's an artificial sweetener, so yeah, it's a way that we sweeten stuff with.
Anything that ends in tol, T-O-L,
Benzitol?
anything that ends in tol.
Yes,
Silent
that's an
tol,
alcoholic
silent
sugar. Yeah. So the OL. Also, anything that's sugar basically is gonna end in ose. So that's where we get the sucrose, the dextrose, the lactose. List goes on. Probably, I mean, it would be interesting. We'll have to see if I can find something that has a big list of all this so that you guys can be looking for this. Because there's so many ways that we can put sugar in our foods. Why would we want sugar in our foods? Do you guys know? What have you guys heard?
It tastes good.
It tastes better. That is true. But since we're trying to make, gains in our health, right? Why would we want to be aware of the sugar that's in our foods? Some of the latest studies that just come out on sugar are really interesting, and we'll definitely have to post more of this. Last year we posted, I can't remember, I think it's a 6-part series called Sugar the Bitter Truth, something like that.
Skinny on obesity.
Skinny on Obesity, that talks about sugar. Yeah, Sugar the Bitter Truth is another one that the guy gave, another lecture that's really good. But it's basically a 6-part series that the universities in California made that talks about sugar and all the effects of sugar. So we'll definitely have to post that on there. There's so many, side effects of sugar, but they have actually now determined, they've proven without, a shadow of doubt that sugar is addictive. They've been able to look at brain scans and see that when people eat sugar, it lights up the brain the same way as somebody does when they're using cocaine. It is actually an addictive substance, and the more that we eat, the more that we want, right? And usually we can very easily go and find sugar. Good. Questions on any of that, guys? No, we feel good about that. So as far as labeling goes, I was noticing as I went to the grocery store last night how tricky some of the verbiage can be on our packages, right? What are some of the labels that you've seen that are kind of tricky? Because I know you've seen them. Come on, guys. I know you have.
Gluten-free,
All
fat-free.
natural.
All natural is a huge one. That's the one I was thinking of, Jamie. Totally. What does all natural mean, guys? It came from nature, but just because it came from nature, is it good for you? Tobacco came from nature, is it good for you? We know it's not. Mercury came from nature, is it good for us? No. Right? But it's all natural. I actually have to read this for you guys. This was interesting to me. I have a couple things. It was talking about food additives, and it was talking about the number of food additives that are found in our foods, whether they're natural or not, right? The FDA has 2,800 food additives and about 3,000 chemicals that basically they've said are okay, that they're deliberately added to our food. So if you count, basically when it was going all the way back from food production stage, grown into the ground into our belly, you're looking at about 10,000 to 15,000 chemicals and additives that we could consume. The average American, they found roughly on average, they'll consume approximately their body weight in additives and chemicals a year. So I weigh 160 pounds, average American consumes 160 pounds of additives and chemicals a year, which is crazy. That blew my mind, right? Even if you're trying to eat healthy, I thought this was really interesting. Sorry guys, I'm kind of statistics that really resonate with me. So I found this super interesting. They did a study in New Zealand, and keep this in mind, in New Zealand, they have much more stringent food policies than we do, even than in the UK. So they're very particular on the quality and stuff in their food. And they did a study on kids and their lunches that they were eating in New Zealand. And I guess this particular day, the lunch items on here it was basically the items, ingredients in the found in the lunch were sausage, which contains DDE, chlorophosphomethylphenyltrophan, pyrimidinophosmethyl, tomato, which has alpha endosulfan, beta endosulfan, endosulfan sulfate, chlorophenol, diethylamocarbons, all kinds of crap. Butter, which has DDE, a white bread roll, which had chloropyrophos methyl. Okay, so a bunch of big names, right? Phenetrophin, malfin, and then an apple, right? Which I would consider tomato and apple to be really healthy. An apple, chloropyrophos, captain, iperidine, and vinclozolin. So it has all the effects of all these ingredients written down to the side. But I think let's just take just the apple, right? There was 5 different things found in an apple, which if we're looking for healthy foods, we go for an apple. The apple had chloropyrifos, which is an endocrine disruptor. It impairs your immune response, reproductive abnormalities, damage in developing your nervous system and brain. It has captive, which is carcinogenic, genetic and immune system damage. It has iperidine, which was a carcinogenic. It had vinclozolin, which is carcinogenic, genetic, endocrine, and reproductive disruptor, and it creates dermatitis in an apple, right? In New Zealand, which is actually better than what we have right here. I found that to be pretty, I don't know, scary, interesting, but scary at the same time when we get thinking about, gosh, we're trying to get healthy foods, and these are all the pesticides and things that are in our food. And this is what they've considered to be okay. And labeled, for that matter. What actually gets scary is when you start to think about what is not labeled that's in our foods that we buy. The FDA basically does not require that any kind of a process be labeled on our food. So have you guys heard of genetically modified foods? I'm sure you've heard about this. Okay, what have you guys heard about it? What comes to mind with you? But I'm curious about, what you guys have heard about genetically modified foods. Nothing?
Well,
Just ways of making food
It's not
and,
I just don't know
Yes.
what's in
just
it.
ways that we've created the corn to, instead of just be really small, to be giant so we can feed more people.
Right,
It's just
yeah,
Make us bigger.
definitely.
The only thing I know about it is if Monsanto dumps Roundup on the food and we eat it, I don't want to eat it.
Totally.
They dump Roundup on the food.
You know what, that brings up a really interesting thing. Do you guys know how the first, what's the word?
Pesticide.
Pesticides, thank you. The first pesticides that were used were actually developed during World War II. Nazi Germany had the chemical plants open, right? And they were actually remnants of those. Basically, it was like, what was it, Jared? Nerve gas?
Nerve gas remnants.
Yeah, that's what it was. It was a nerve gas, and they found that when they took those nerve gases, went in and kind of genetically manipulated some of those things, that it would be more toxic for insects than it was for us, and it could be used to kill off the insects instead of killing us. That's where pesticides first came from. And the first pesticides were actually developed to have a shelf life of about a decade. So, if you sprayed your crops one year, that lasted and stayed in the soil for up to 10 years. Well, every year that you did that, that would build up and up and up and up. And that was the idea behind it, was build it up in the soil so it'll kill off the plant, the weeds, the bugs, the whatever. So it's kind of scary to think about where did these things actually come from. But back to genetically modified foods. Sorry, I get off on tangents. Interesting facts though. Genetically modified foods, basically the idea and the concept is how do we take a basic plant, like corn, right? How do we grow more corn? How do we make it grow faster? How do we make it grow bigger, faster? How do we take a tomato, which is sensitive to cold, and make it so that it can be more cold tolerant, whatever? They've actually found, if you go to the grocery store right now, 70% of the food that is in the supermarket has at least one ingredient that is genetically modified. And what this basically means is they're taking genetic code or genetic material from one organism and chemically manipulating it, and then basically introducing it to another organism. So for example, one of the things that's really popular is they'll take a flounder, because it's a cold water fish, and mix that with the tomato to make more cold resistant tomatoes. There's lots of other things, but that's an example of what they're doing. The problem with this is, because this is a process, it does not have to be labeled on our foods. So it's not labeled for us to decide if we want genetically modified foods or not. And B, they've actually never done any long-term testing to see how this is going to affect us. And they're not required to do any safety testing because it's a process. So something that's kind of scary about our foods. Do you guys have questions on that? You guys are so quiet. It's okay to talk. Or smile and laugh or whatever. What are your guys' thoughts? What's your thought process so far?
That part is just really scary because another really good movie that just came out, and it's actually not out, you can buy it online, is Bought, and it talks about the GMO foods. And it's just scary because we always try to buy as much organic as possible, but then you think about, well, just because it's organic doesn't mean that it's not GMO free. So it just kind of makes you feel helpless because they don't have to label it in the state. They're trying to get it passed in other states, but it isn't in South Dakota, and I'm sure if it's ever done, this will probably be one of the last. So it just makes you feel, I don't know,
Yeah.
I think it's interesting, but yet it's really scary to think you try to be healthy and make good choices, but you only can do it to a certain point. because it really, unless you grow it yourself,
Right.
you know, that part is, it's just scary to me.
Well, even then, part of the problem with, part of the reason that it's hard to really make sure that the food you're getting is not genetically modified is because of pollen, right? The wind blows pollen into, organic farms or whatever. So that's why it's really hard. I mean, even if you're growing at home, if your neighbor is growing, some form of hybrid type plant that is a genetically modified plant, or, we live right next to an alfalfa field, who knows what kinds of pesticides they're using that's in the soil. Who knows what types of fertilizers, that they're using? Who knows, and the wind, that's being carried. So it's hard. You can only do the best that you can do, obviously. Kind of leads into and goes with, how do we get this better food? And really, that's where, as a consumer, you got to remember. We go to the grocery store. I went to the grocery store last night. I guess people are doing pretty good because the organic section was totally cleared out. It's like, dang it, what am I gonna eat? But we see that, organic costs more, but here's the difference between organic food and non-organic food. Organic food is actually very, very stringent to get something that is organic certified. For something to be organic certified, it takes 3 years of basically following the organic protocol. So no chemical pesticides, no blah, blah, blah. Right? They're interested after 3 years, then they can have it tested and get its organic certification. So it is a pretty stringent process, costly process can be, which is part of the reason why it costs more for organic food. But organic food they do not use any of the chemical pesticides, herbicides, fertilizers that traditional commercial food can use. They're not allowed to use any of those. The food is not irradiated. Do you guys know what I mean when I say irradiated? Have you guys heard of that? All right, cool. Well, irradiation. Basically, it's actually a list. Let me see. Foods that are irradiated. Kind of tell you what is and then tell you about it. Our foods that are irradiated include beef, pork, lamb, poultry, fruits, veggies, wheats, eggs in the shell. And then that was kind of a little bit older, a couple of years ago reference. So I think at the time when that book was written, they were talking about corn and even honey was on the list of potentially to be common. What this is basically is they take doses of radiation. They've actually found it's a cheaper, easier way to kind of clean up some of the leftover nuclear fuel that we've had in the past. So they'll take doses of radiation and radiate our food to kill off any of the bacteria, potential bacteria or harmful things that could make us sick. Salmonella, whatever it is, right?
Where's that happening at?
Everywhere.
No, but like beef, are they doing it in the plant, in the locker? Or are they doing it
You
in
know,
the grocery store? Or are they doing
That is a great question. Whether they do it, you're talking about whether they do it at the packing plant or whether they send it out. And I'm not 100% positive on that, but I can do some research on that and look that up. Because I'm not positive on that. It's a pretty interesting concept to me. All right, I got to start doing organic. It costs more, but I got to figure out how to, put it in the budget or at least figure out, like, with all these things, I'm going to make sure I'm buying those organic, right? And here's why. Basically, organic food is not irradiated. It does not have the toxic chemicals, pesticides. It takes longer and slower to grow, but the soil is healthier. And because of that, we're getting a lot more nutrition out of it. In fact, one of the biggest studies that they did on organic farming in the country, actually, they looked at cows and found that when cows were fed organic grass, that they were able to eat less and produce less milk. They were healthier cows, basically. They were getting a lot more nutrition out of their food. Organic food, let me see, guys. Make sure I'm not missing anything on this. Yeah. So that's basically kind of organic food. And I think a lot of times, for me, when I think organic, I go to produce. But we also need to be thinking about our meat and where that's coming from. Because a lot of times, even if we're, trying to buy good meat, we have to remember that a lot of times those cows or chicken or whatever have been fed genetically modified corn or soy or whatever. So it gets kind of scary. There's lots to think about. Basically what happens is you got to remember you are what you eat. So if you're eating a cow that's had genetically modified foods or was exposed to a lot of toxins or grew up in one of those, tight meat packs, that's basically what you end up eating. So not to try to scare y'all.
Where do you get, like, does anybody have a place that you can get, like, local organic chickens? Because, like, Safeway has Harvest Land, and that's what we usually buy, but I haven't found any place that has, like, organic.
Chickens, what about just down the meat? Probably like Harrods.
Yeah, I get those, but like, actually just chicken breasts, like, you guys know where you get this, like, organic.
Yeah, Safeway sells the Organics brand, organic chicken. I've asked about the Hutterite and I've heard it's kind
Not
of
organic.
so-so.
Yeah.
It's not organic, but quality-wise, I've heard it's kind of so-so. But truthfully, I think it always goes back to, and I'll try to look too, because there's always more coming out. If you guys end up going to like the health food store, for example, they have a booklet that is basically a booklet put together from every county of different like local producers. So whether it's, fruit and veggies farmers, meat farmers, dairy farmers, whatever, they've got them listed with their name, number, email, contact info, so you can actually contact those farmers, go directly to the source directly. And that's by far the best way to do it. The take-home message of it is, if you can get products that are, closer to home, if you actually know the person, know the farmer that's putting stuff out, right? And organic if you can get that. But really it's kind of going back to knowing your farmer, knowing where your food comes from, knowing what your cows eat. That's the cool thing about South Dakota. It's really easy to know where your cow came from. It's usually right around the corner. If there's so many opportunities to buy local here. So, kind of going along with, kind of wrapping up a little bit, but I wanted to talk about we are what we eat, right? One of the downsides of eating some of these pesticides, these fertilizers, maybe animals that have been exposed to pesticides and fertilizers and lived in unclean conditions, is that toxins are stored for animals and for us. Toxins are stored in our fat cells. Okay, so what that means for us is when we're introduced to these toxins from the additives in our food, the chemical fertilizers, we eat that and that gets into our bloodstream. Well, it can't stay in our bloodstream because that will make us sick. Our body's really smart that way. It understands it's got to take these harmful chemicals and toxins and put them somewhere, store them somewhere. So what your body will do is store those, as a protective measure, it'll store those toxins in our fat cells. The downside, one of the major downsides of this is that when we want to try to lose weight, if we're storing all of these harmful toxins in our fat cells, our body's smart and recognizes, well, if I burn off this fat, I release this fat, we burn and use this up for energy, then I'm just releasing those toxins back into the system, and I'm gonna be sick. So it will really hold on to those fat cells. It really becomes difficult when you're looking at it from a weight loss perspective or from trying to maintain a healthy weight loss perspective, and your body will not release that fat because of all the toxins and chemicals that are built up. It will do the same thing in animals, which is why you want to be very particular about the meat that you're eating, because any of those toxins are also stored in that animal's fat that you are then ingesting. So something to really be thinking of. Some of you guys noticed, we did a bunch of research, kind of wanted to get some more supplements in here for you guys that would just kind of help general health-wise. And this kind of leads into one of the ones that we looked into and got, it's called the Kryptonic Detox. And this is actually just a detox from all the toxins and chemicals and stuff. They say usually that you should be doing a detox about every 4 to 6 months, just to kind of make sure that you're getting those things out. The problem with some detoxes is that you can release toxins too fast and too quickly and you'll feel sick. Like I said, looked at a bunch of different ones and there's a lot of different ways to do this. This is just a pill form, but your diet has to be to where you're eating, a lot of fruits and greens, drinking a lot of water, eating healthy, which is really conducive to what you guys are all going to be doing right now. So a really good time of the year to do this. I actually just started mine this morning. But as you're kind of thinking about this, if one of your goals is to lose weight, this is a really good way to just kind of start that process and get into it, because then your body's a lot more willing to give up that body fat. Or if you're just trying to be healthy, it's always a good idea to do that detox to get rid of those toxins. But sorry, that was a side note, I just thought of that. Some of the other supplements that we got, or why supplements are, I guess, good for how it fits into quality food and why it's good for what we're doing right now is, a lot of times we're not getting the nutrition that we need out of our food. We're not getting those macro, micronutrients, especially out of the food that we need. So we got some really good vitamins and minerals. We got a greens drink that is just a really condensed form of really fresh, freeze-dried greens, barley grass, wheatgrass, and they actually taste good. So a whole bunch of different stuff in there. If you guys have questions about the supplements, you can definitely ask me. I don't want to spend a ton of time on that, but I want you to understand basically what we did is the company that we got them from used to be a company that sold just directly to medical professionals. So it's medical grade quality. Basically what they did is just recently they opened up a consumer line. So they just recently been selling to consumers. The reason I like them is they throw enzymes in all of their stuff, and enzymes are what helps us digest and utilize the supplements more efficiently, effectively. They also throw in what are called adaptogens. So like probably an example of adaptogen that you guys have all heard of is ginseng. It's pretty popular right now. And what adaptogens are basically is as you take them, they build up in your system to just naturally give you more energy, more endurance, better health. There's a lot of cool research on them. So that was part of the reason. Plus, just they're a high quality. I've actually been able to see the certification of, what am I thinking of?
Quality certification.
See, that's why I keep him around, because I forget words, but he can read my minds. So I've actually seen the certification of quality. So that's kind of why we decided to go with this company. So if you have questions about the supplements or how they can kind of help you specifically with what you're doing right now, definitely feel free to ask us, any of us. But I wanted to hit on those really quick. Do you guys have questions on that?
Would a fifth grader understand some of those words that you just
I
said?
think they should. I think they should. They're all natural.
Oh.
No. So, yeah. Any other questions, guys? Cool. What I want to do, I guess, just basically to kind of sum this up before bringing it all back together. I mean, it can be scary to think about what you're eating. And the only reason that I really kind of want to talk on this and hit on this and why it's important to educate yourself on this is because, really you can only do the best that you can do. You're going to have to take a look at your budget and figure out maybe where you can afford to spend a little bit more money, buy a little bit better quality, and do the best you can do. But ideally, what would be the best is to buy local, to buy organic, know your farmers, whether it's meat or fruits and veggies. Eat as many of those fruits and veggies as you can. And it's going to help, just putting all of that aside, putting your health aside, recognizing that you're supporting the idea or supporting farmers that are working hard to produce and have that for you.
I'm gonna add a couple things maybe
Yeah.
you'll be able to elaborate on.
Definitely, go for it.
So did everybody get the email with the nutrition guide here? The sugars, there's a list of the sugars in here, all the names, that's in here. So make sure you take a look at that. There's also with pesticides, there's the Dirty Dozen and the Clean 15 is in here. It talks about the most common fruits and vegetables that have pesticides on them and the ones that don't normally have as much.
And sorry, just a side note with that changes yearly, so stay up on that because they're always changing the pesticides and whatnot, so.
And then with as far as the food quality goes, and we didn't get into it as much here, is there's a part in here on why grass-fed meats. There's more in here on I think chicken and like with fish, choosing wild caught versus farm raised. So go in here and take a look at this. We didn't cover it as much this year because a lot of you have been through this, but make sure you get through this nutrition guide because there's a ton of good information in there on food quality.
Yeah. And if you guys are looking for, if you have a question on like, hey, do you know where to get this? Definitely let me know because like I said, hazard the job. I'm always looking for that. I have been able to, talk to some different farmers and ranchers and whatnot. But there is just down the road. There's the farmers market. She usually carries. They actually have grass-fed, grass-finished local beef from here. They do have some of the Hutterite chicken and some other chicken. They do, I think, have some organic chicken over there. They have local fresh eggs. Milk, if you're doing milk, they've actually been down and researched. They're not able to do their own milk anymore because I guess South Dakota got rid of, what was it? Anyway, yeah, I think they're kind of working on it. So they get their milk from a farm down in Colorado that they've gone down personally and kind of been through, walked through. So they make a really big effort to get local products that are healthier types of meat. So that's really a good place to go. First off, if you're looking for that, they have a bunch of different items. I'm surprised every time I go in, there's more and more and more. And I've actually been able to find things in that store that were cheaper than what I could pay for them at Walmart.
Where was that?
The farmer's market, it's right down here by Croquet Brewery.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Don't go out with beer, Junior.
kind of defeats the purpose. Just kidding.
Can you go over timing? This last time I did this, I was having a problem getting enough carbs. You know, I work out and halfway through I just get weak and,
Right.
and the packet says eat your carbs after your workout. Well, I need them before,
Yeah.
or else I fizzle out.
It totally, there's a lot that goes into timing if you're timing for your workout. It depends on kind of when you're working out. So, Jamie, you work out in the afternoon. And everybody is going to be a little bit different with that. This is where it becomes really helpful to do food logging like we're doing, food journaling, because then you can look back and say, whoa, I ate this 2 hours before, and I definitely did not have enough energy during my workout. But typical standards, if we're talking about having energy for your workout, you want to eat something that's got some carbohydrates as well as a little bit of protein so that it will sustain you through your workout. About an hour to 2 hours before is the general typical for most people. I find with me that my stomach, I don't get an upset stomach eating right before I work out, so I'm typically closer to about a half hour to an hour. But again, you're only going to know that if you kind of experiment and then take notes on that. After your workout is when getting the carbohydrates is going to be super, super, super important. And the reason being, and we'll go over this a lot more in detail, I think we've got this planned in a later discussion, whatever you want to call it, because it is a very, common question. A lot of times we're wondering that out, how much? But after a workout, you basically depleted all of your energy stores. So at that time, any nutrition that you give your body is going to be rapidly absorbed and used. So carbohydrates after your workout, say at least usually about 50 grams of carbohydrate if you have a hard workout. For someone like you that's working out really hard and burns through those calories really fast, has an active job, you're going to need at least that. And like I said, later discussion, we'll go through and try to figure out exactly for each person based off your body weight to give you a more accurate guideline of that. But after your workout's going to be the most important time to get those carbohydrates.
And your goals are going to change that. So you specifically, if we're putting you on a specific program and you're, for what you're trying to do, whether it's lean out or gain a little bit of muscle or whatever it is, that's going to completely change how you're going to eat carbs throughout the day. So, and it'll be different from you to me to Rochelle to, to anybody. And it varies a lot.
Yeah, it does. It's very unique depending on exactly what your goals are, how you're working out at that time, what, how active you are during the day, what other foods you're eating, the time that you're working out. So those are things that we're definitely, I'm excited about this because we're going to spend some time going over carbs and proteins and fats a lot more, how they work in your body. We're going to spend some time if your goal is to lose weight versus to build muscle and how to eat and timing, how to time your foods for that. So that's kind of stay tuned later on down the road.
But yeah, put that stuff in your goals in your email to Rochelle. You should be emailing her, and then this week she can look at your food log and see what you need to change. I just wanted to add something with, especially with the greens first, or the greens here. So you talked a little bit about the farming practices and how our vegetables and fruits don't have as many nutrients as they used to, not even close. And so that's one way that we're missing out on nutrients that can help.
Also, did you guys see in the email those checklists that we sent you? You're going to notice on that checklist that one of the checklists is eating, 5 to 6 cups?
5 cups of vegetables.
Which can be a little challenging for some of us. So one really good, easy way to make sure you're getting really good quality is the greens drink. That's actually why we ordered that in, because we knew most of you were going to be like, that's so not feasible, I hate my vegetables. I hear that all the time.
And maybe not at first, if you can eat a cup now, and maybe you get better at eating them and throwing them into meals and things like that. But if you get 2 cups in one day and you tried your best, and that's gonna top you off.
I really like to throw mine in my smoothies, or sometimes even just if I'm here, just in with a vanilla protein shake and shake it. It's actually delicious just with water. But that's what I've gotten in the habit, just green smoothie. When I do that in the morning, I'll do scoop or 2 of that, depending on what I'm putting in. Yeah. Any other questions, guys?
Sure, email address.
Yes. My email address is Rochelle, RACHEL, @greatmovement.com.
Okay, thanks.
And you guys should have emails that I sent out too, let me know if you didn't get those, but there's a link that goes to our blog, and I think you need to copy and paste it instead of clicking on the link. It isn't working, so try to copy and paste it. If I hear from a couple of you that isn't working, I'm going to I'll send out a new link, but it worked when I copy and pasted it. And that has all of our shells information in there. It has all the stuff we went over today. Go back to that blog every day. One more thing for the momentum, something that's helped me specifically, there's a pros and cons list of coffee in here. And there's good and bad things, and you can definitely overconsume. So if anybody feels like you might be having an issue with that, or you want to learn more about that, the momentum is a good product.
Yeah. If you're going off Red Bull, like if that was just maybe somebody's goal for the month, I'm working your fingers, right? No, this is actually what I'll use. I'm not a huge coffee drinker, but for kind of just get a little pick me up in the morning. What this is just a natural energy drink that basically is full of adaptogens, and it has some green tea. So green tea, naturally occurring green tea has that naturally occurring caffeine, so it doesn't kind of spike you, leave you down, so it's kind of a filler. And adaptogens, like I talked about a little bit before, as those adaptogens build up in your system, it helps you have more sustained energy throughout the day, but throughout as well.
I want to be a good product seller. That stuff is amazing. It tastes like black cherry jello if you're a candy head like me, or if you like sugary drinks, or you're into just that kind of candy, sugar flavored taste. That stuff's awesome.
I second.
I was gonna say, I can vouch for her too.
Yeah, with lemon, real lemon.
Yeah, I do, that's what I do. I squeeze the lemon, it's like,
Yeah, it's
very lemonade. But the nice thing about it, besides the fact it tastes good, is it actually is really good for you. It's packed full of supplements, B vitamins, amino acids, like I said, adaptogens. So it's really tailored to somebody that is working out to kind of help you replace what you're losing. And I don't know what I was going to say, lost my train of thought, but yeah.
I feel better when I drink
Yeah.
that versus coffee too. I love coffee, but
Yeah.
I can tell when I
Oh,
substitute it.
it's sweetened with stevia, so it's not, there's no sugar or anything in it, or artificial sweeteners, which is kind of hard to get. So anyway, if you have questions about the supplements, we've been using them, so that's why we're like, excited that you should try it out, because it's awesome. But
We can wrap it up here. If they have any other questions, we'll get you guys out of here on time. Appreciate everybody coming in, and just try to immerse yourself in knowledge this next 28 days. This isn't about changing everything 100% and doing some sort of crash diet and seeing how many pounds we can lose. It's about these small changes that you can make over time, and just learning as much as you can, because every year we do this, we learn something more each time. And just make sure that you're here to learn, and that there's an article that's posted either today or tomorrow on the blog. And the fifth one, look at it, the fifth study was about people who have better success when they find intrinsic motivators versus extrinsic. So somebody wanting you to lose weight, or you just want the scale to show a lower number. So make sure that this is about, maybe for you it's about being healthier so that you can play with your kids when you're 60 years old, or to make you feel better about how you look, or just take some time today to reflect on that. What really motivates you to make change, and use that when it gets really hard, which it will in the middle. It'll get hard. So it's a long-term deal.
and then write those goals down and send them to me. Like, do we the food list for the week? Or
Yep, food list for the
shopping?
week is up.
It is?
Shopping list and
Okay.
prep list.
Cool. Something that we really wanted to do this week, kind of feedback, or this time around, I guess, feedback we got from the Lodge Challenge. What I've basically been doing, and you guys are definitely more than welcome to contribute on the blog too. If you guys have some recipes or whatever, send it to me and let me know. But I put together 5 of some of my favorite recipes, and basically put together a shopping list on what you need from them. Kind of went and did the shopping, so figured out kind of where was the best place to get that stuff from. So it would make it easier for you guys. The foods that I tried to pick out and make would be things, and the idea is to get you to develop what's called a prep day. So Sunday is usually my prep day. Easy for me to spend about an hour in the kitchen, cutting up vegetables, throwing this in the oven, throwing this in the crock pot, getting stuff ready to go for the week. If it's ready and you have it, that you can easily grab it, you're more likely to be successful. So with that in mind, put together those 5 recipes, put a shopping list as well as kind of an outline to use for your prep day, all right? So let me know if you have any questions or even just suggestions on that.